Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Okay, you can stop. Stop. It ain't. Hey, you know what? It just isn't the right of the people unless there's some kind of technical difficulty, right? So, hello, everybody out there on YouTube and simulcast on gun channels, and anyone who may be listening to the podcast on Podbean. Oh, by the way, did you guys know you can listen to this on Podbean? Yeah, sure can. Anyhow, happy Friday to you, Memorial Day weekend. Just remember, all throughout the weekend, you're having your fun, your barbecues, your graduations, all that good stuff. Just remember the price that was paid so that you can do all these things. You know, it was paid in blood. And it's up to us to remember and express our gratitude for those brave men and women who paid that price for us so that we can enjoy the freedoms, rights, and liberties that we have. Want to say hello to everybody out there that's watching. Looks like we got, let's see, on the YouTube side, Patriot in the Dark, he was first. Then comes Midnight Range. Gun-loving Grandpa Stanley. I don't think I've seen that one. Welcome to the show. If you've never been here before, this is The Right of the People on Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. I take and collect together some Second Amendment related news and stories of interest and read them to you, and then we talk about them with the panel and with those of you in the audience who decide you want to leave a comment. So if you have something to say, don't be shy. Flyer 777, hi, good to see you. Glad that you wanted to stop by. I think you're another new one. Let's see, over on the gun channel side, we got General Relativity there, and well, looks like Smeggy's in the chat, but there's the Z's, so maybe he's chatting on me. That's okay. Anyhow, tonight, for right now, we got with us Mr. Roll Call 219. How are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on, Bud? Guns and Gears? I'm doing all right. I hope you're doing all right, and I hope everybody out in both chats are doing fantastic on this fine day.
And it is a beautiful day, at least here in Ohio. It is sunny, wonderful weather. Instead of doing this, I should be out mowing my lawn, but you know what? It'll keep. It ain't going nowhere. We do have a lot to talk about today, though. As a matter of fact, my neighbor's mowing his lawn. You might hear that occasionally in the background. If so, I apologize. Midnight says, roll calls on the panel. I'm out of here. Anywho, got a lot to talk about today. First thing I want to touch on, you know, despite the fact that the antis tell us it does not happen, yet again, a good guy with a gun has stopped a bad guy with a gun. This time in Oklahoma at a restaurant. From Fox News by Elizabeth Zwerts. Man opens fire inside Oklahoma restaurant before armed citizen shoots, kills him, police say. A man opened fire Thursday in an Oklahoma restaurant, leaving at least 4 people injured before he was fatally shot by a bystander, police said. The gunfire unfolded at about 6:30 p.m. local time at Louis on the Lake in Oklahoma City, Fox 25 News reported. The unidentified shooter entered the restaurant and fired his gun, Oklahoma City police tweeted, who later added that 4 people had been injured. Regarding the shooting at Lake Hefner, a 4th victim has been identified. The victim suffered a minor injury. It is unclear how the victim sustained the injury. From a tweet by Oklahoma City Police, Lake Hefner shooting update. A man walked into the Louis restaurant and opened fire with a gun. 2 people were shot. 1 person has been taken to a hospital with serious injuries. A bystander with a pistol confronted the shooter outside the restaurant and fatally shot him. Another tweet by the Oklahoma City Police. The man, police said, was apparently shot to death by an armed citizen outside the restaurant, and there was no indication of terrorism. The incident followed a shooting last month in Tennessee, during which a suspect opened fire at a Waffle House, killing 4 people. Investigators said a man inside the Waffle House confronted the gunman, ultimately disarming him. Police arrested the suspect the next day. The suspect is the only confirmed fatality, and a motive was not immediate. This is of the shooting in Oklahoma. The suspect is the only confirmed fatality, and a motive was not immediately clear. Police said authorities did not reveal whether or not the gunman knew his victims. Confirmed, a mother and daughter were shot while celebrating a birthday at Louis Lakeside. Police say they were innocent customers. Suspect was shot and killed by an armed civilian. So, normally I will end the show on a self-defense shout out, but I figured that today I'd start it with one. Midnight Range says false. If you shoot at people, that's terrorizing. Well, sure, I'm absolutely positive it is pretty terrifying for the people being shot at. However, if you go by the definition of terrorism as violence used to force political action and for political purposes, then this does not fit the definition. Though I'm sure it's pretty damn terrifying. So there it is. Even though it doesn't happen, it happened. It's amazing how that is. Let me see. Anything over on gun channels? Speaking of, let's see. General Relativity says, shot him outside. I hope it wasn't in the back. Well, I haven't heard anything of the armed citizen being charged for shooting a guy, so I guess it's part of... I guess it's part and parcel of play stupid games, win stupid prizes,
Yeah, I mean, if you go in there and you act like an idiot, there's people that will put you in check real quick, and he learned that lesson.
Yep. He learned it rather poignantly. Squibload, how you doing, sir?
Hi, running a little behind today.
Oh, that's all right. Better late than never, right?
True.
Talking about the shooting in Oklahoma at the restaurant that was stopped by an armed citizen. Despite the fact that some would have us believe that it doesn't happen that way, but it does. Midnight Range says, if you shoot people, I don't think it's wrong to shoot you in the back. No, I don't think so either. Matter of fact, if you're busy shooting at someone else for no reason, and someone can get the drop on you and shoot you in the back without putting themselves in danger, more power to them. Again, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's just how that goes. Speaking,
I agree.
Go ahead. Let me cue this up. Something that you sent me today. There's another thing we kind of have to talk about today. As soon as I can find the story. This wasn't part of my usual preparatory activities here. This got sent to me earlier today by Roll. As soon as I can find it, I bookmarked it. Did I bookmark it? Apparently I didn't bookmark it. Shoot. Well, let me find it. Dang it. I hate it when this happens. Again, if it wasn't technical difficulties, it wouldn't be the right of the people.
Well,
It's fine. It just means the show isn't scripted per se.
Oh, yeah. No, there's no such thing as a script on this one, let me tell you. It's unfortunate, but dang it.
With the whole Oklahoma thing, I just I wonder if the fact that we're reporting it on social media, that it might be enough. It might be enough to get people to recognize this stuff just outside of CNN. I mean, I know most of the country seems to be brain dead, and they just whatever's on the major news networks is all they listen to or believe. But I'm hoping social media is gaining some traction with stuff like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really the only hope we have, I think, of any of these stories that don't fit the agenda coming out, is the fact that little guys like us are reporting them. Okay, here I found it. Going to be talking about the school shooting in Indiana today. Male student from Fox News by Kathleen Joyce. Male student in custody after shooting at Indiana Middle School. Two victims reported. A male student was taken into custody after a shooting at an Indiana middle school that left a student and a teacher critically injured on Friday, authorities said. Noblesville Police Department Chief Kevin Jowett told reporters Friday that a male student was detained following the call of an active shooter at Noblesville West Middle School at 9:06 a.m. Eastern. There were 2 people injured, a teacher and a student, Jowett said. The victims were transported to the hospital and their families have been notified. The suspect nor the victims have been identified. Should be neither the suspect nor the victims. Poor editing. Have been identified. Authorities declined to name the suspect and victims in 2 press conferences Friday. From Brad Mousehart, I'm not sure who he is. Here's a map showing they tweeted about showing a map. Jowett said he did not believe that there was any further threat to the school, but added there was a threat directed to Noblesville High School, where many middle school students were bused to following the incident. He said police were at the school's campus monitoring the scene, but have not found anything. A number of agencies, including the FBI and the BATFE, were on the scene investigating the incident. Jowett said an investigation has been opened into the shooting. Authorities said the suspect excused himself from the classroom Friday, and when he returned, he had 2 handguns. The situation was said to have been resolved extremely quickly. The school does not have metal detectors, but there was a resource officer who works full-time at the school who was present at the time of the incident. Ethan Stonebreaker, a student, told the Associated Press a science teacher was able to tackle the student who fired shots inside the classroom. He said the teacher immediately ran at him, swatted a gun out of his hand, and tackled him to the ground. Good for him. That's a hero right there, folks. Stonebreaker adds, if it weren't for him, more of us would have been injured for sure. Authorities did not say whether the teacher who reportedly tackled the student was one of the victims. However, the teacher, identified by the Indy Star as Jason Seaman, was shot multiple times and went into surgery, his brother Jeremy told the outlet. Students and parents informed the outlet that it was Seaman who jumped in to stop the suspect. Following reports of the shootings, a number of politicians tweeted their thoughts, including Vice President Mike Pence. Karen and I are praying for the victims of the terrible shooting in Indiana. To everyone in the Noblesville community, you are on our hearts and in our prayers. Thanks for the swift response by Hoosier law enforcement and first responders, Pence tweeted. He was formerly the governor of Indiana. Closely monitoring the situation at Noblesville West Middle School, praying for Noblesville and our whole community, Representative Andre Carson said. Senator Todd Young said he was in touch with Governor Eric Holcomb in regards to the incident. As details continue to develop, please pray for everyone involved, he tweeted. The Indianapolis Colts released a statement. On behalf of the entire Colts organization, we extend our thoughts and prayers to the victims of the Noblesville West Middle School shooting and the Noblesville community. We'd also like to thank the first responders, law enforcement officials, and medical personnel for their efforts and bravery during today's tragedy. We will continue to pray for the safety of our community during this difficult time, the statement read. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb, who was returning from a trip to Europe on Friday, issued a statement saying that he and other state leaders were getting updates about the situation and that 100 state police officers have been made available to work with local law enforcement. Eric Higgins, who was among the worried parents who rushed to get their kids, told the WTHR-TV that Erica Higgins, that she learned of the shooting from a relative who called her at home. I just want to get my arms around my boy, she said. Higgins said her son was shaken up but knew little about what happened. I got a mom, I'm scared text message, and other than that, it was come and get me at the high school. And so on and so forth. So there is a stark contrast between the two people. One, a science teacher, unarmed, who rushed towards the sound of the gunfire and did everything he could, put himself at hazard in order to save the kids in his care, versus an armed, trained, and armored school resource officer who cowered behind a wall and waited while 17 people were killed. You know, it goes to show that the people who say, what would you expect teachers to do? What would you expect teachers to do if they had guns? They're not police. Well, I expect that they do what I think the majority of people in that line of work would do. Put themselves at risk. and do everything they could to save those kids. Thoughts?
A teacher's going to try to get between their students and the threat no matter what. The teacher can use their body as a shield, and that'll only buy a little bit of time for the students, because after the teacher expires, then the students will be the next target. Or the teacher can turn and face the threat if it appears in the room with equal, or at least, an equalizer, which would be a firearm, a handgun. And they don't have to be an expert marksman. They don't have to be Rambo. They don't have to be law enforcement. At that range, yeah, they're afraid. Yeah, they're doubting themselves. Yeah, but behind them, they've got all those young lives that they have, they care about so much. I mean, some of the people get into teaching because it's good pay, good benefits, good retirement, and you get a lot of paid time off. You work in an air-conditioned building, you get to wear nice clothes every day, et cetera, and the teachers out there listening and complaining, whatever. But there's a lot of people that get into it because they actually care about kids. These are the same kind of people that want to be social workers and stuff like that. If you really care about kids, if it come to it, you would use your body as a shield, but wouldn't it be better if you could, instead of just buying them a few more seconds of life, buy them a whole lifetime of life, but being able to use an equalizer in a situation like that?
Absolutely right. I mean, this teacher, Jason Seaman, is, in my opinion, a bona fide hero. He put himself at risk. He took bullets for those kids, and he did. And despite the fact that he had no protection, he had no weapon, he had no body armor, he had nothing, he threw himself literally on the would-be killer and saved who knows how many people. You know, that's heroism, folks. That shows what a brave person can do, as opposed to, you know, someone like the Broward Coward. I hope that this fine man pulls through, and that you know, he lives to tell his grandchildren the story. You know, it
Now, we've seen these crimes happen at schools. I mean, they've been going on forever. The fact that the news is a 24-hour news cycle, it's been like that for about 25 years or so, 30 years. And I'd say since Columbine, these have been big news stories, sensationalized, thrown up there, repeated over and over again. Because of the technology and things of that nature, it wasn't reported the way it is today in the past. People used to read the newspaper. Hardly anybody reads a newspaper anymore, things like that, you know. Not every place had cable TV. Not every place had satellite TV. Not every place broadcast 24 hours a day. So because that is something that's been going on for about 30 years now, and for the younger generation, they have no idea what it was like when the TV went off at 11:30, midnight, that sort of thing, and didn't come back on until 5 a.m. Saturday, or Dad would be sitting reading the paper after dinner, or something like that. They don't have any frame of reference, so they think it's always been like that. But there've been murders at these schools, or situations where they try to blow up the school, burn the school down, whatever it was. But because of the news cycle we have and the modern technology we have with media and communication, it's out there a lot more. And these kids see this stuff, and I think they want to repeat it. I really do. I think it's part of this whole Me Too thing. And I don't just mean the people in the media showing the murderer's face and saying their name and talking about their backstory. It's also all the people that are mugging in front of the camera trying to get their 15 minutes of fame. you might have some deranged person watching this going, I can do that too. They're trying to get as famous not only as the murderer, but also all these people that have to run their mouth in front of the camera, and they're not really saying anything that adds to the story. They just, the camera, they turn on the lights and shove the camera and the mic in front of their face, and the person's nervous and they're thinking, ooh, I get to be on TV. And they're just as guilty in some cases, in my opinion. It's strictly my opinion. But these kids see this stuff. And we keep having these incidents happen, and on one side you could say, well, historically they've happened forever, and on another side you say, yeah, but it just seems like there's so much. And is it all copycat stuff, or is a lot of it copycat stuff? I mean, what do you think?
I think that some of it is. I have no doubt that there are some people who've been influenced by the fact that, you know, these killers have had their names and their faces plastered all over the news every time it happens. How much of it, you know, I don't necessarily know that there's a causative factor here, but I don't necessarily know that there isn't. Wiser people than me have been trying to figure that one out and really can't. You know, I guess you'll hear, if you ask 10 different people, you'll get 10 different opinions on it. So, you know, I'm wise enough to know that I'm not wise enough to know, if that makes any sense whatsoever. By the way, if anybody else would like to weigh in on this topic or any of the other topics we talk about tonight, I have put a link over in Gun Channels. So if somebody wants to hop on. You're welcome to come on over. Be part of the panel. If you just go over to Gun Channels to the Budget Guns and Gear Reviews page, you will find it in the chat over there.
I expressed this on some of the media outlets that were reporting the story, and I think a lot of it, and I'm not sure 100% of it, because I kind of understand where Squid's coming from, but I think it's parenting. Honest to God, I have never seen so many kids be offended, be afraid. I believe it comes down to parenting, and I don't think that there's good parenting right now in America at all. I mean, I have my faults as a parent. We all do, but for kids to get to this kind of level and to incite this kind of violence, why aren't parents looking into this, keeping tabs on their kids, looking at social media, looking at their discipline at school, looking at, you know, just their attitude in a whole? I really blame this a lot on parents, and I've gotten ridiculed for that, but that's all right, because, you know, like Squib says, that's my opinion. But I firmly believe that a lot of it has to do with poor parenting skills, kids having kids at really young ages, not understanding growth, not understanding that there's more to life. And, you know, the media, the liberal agenda, I feel is another little aspect of this, because they're telling the kids it's all right. It's all right to act out. It's all right to do this stuff. You see it every day as they glorify these people. You know, they're treating this. So I think it's a combination of a whole lot of things, and it's coming down to this. What people don't understand is that there are solutions to these problems, and they're plain as day. But yet, politicians don't want to come down and invoke these problem-solving methods, because they want to stay in their place of power. They want to stay getting a paycheck, and they want to stay being a politician forever and until they expire. You know, they don't want to put forth this to jeopardize their lifestyle, but yet this is already jeopardizing everybody else's lifestyle. It's not jeopardizing. You just heard it. Holcomb's sitting on a plane coming back from Europe. What the hell is my representative doing over in Europe? What is that guy doing? He's
probably going to give some BS excuse that he's trying to bring business from Europe over to America. They tried that here in Michigan. One of the governors did a junket over there. Turned out they weren't able to bring anything back. Have you ever heard of a video conference call? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So this was a taxpayer paid vacation.
Thermo Redneck.
Basically.
Thermo Redneck with a paycheck on the YouTube side says, I have 2 sons, both joined the military. Both I bought guns for them at 10. Started out with a 22. I was there to guide them in the ways of growing up, respect for others, and the value of human life. And that kind of dovetails with what I was going to say in response to you, bro, is I agree with you in some parts and I disagree with you in others. I think that this issue doesn't have any simple solutions, because I think this issue is staggeringly and horrifyingly complex. Over the last 17 years, and where I work, and for those of you that may be new to watching the show and don't know anything about me, I work in a juvenile detention center in Northeast Ohio. I've been doing it for 17 years. And over that period of time, I've noticed that the kids that we get in are committing worse and worse crimes. And I've noticed that the behavior of the kids is becoming worse and worse. For instance, assaults on our staff have risen dramatically over the past 17 years. When I first started, it was extremely rare. You know, a kid wouldn't dream of trying to put their hands on adults, even the quote unquote hardened criminals. It was rare that it would happen. But as time progresses, it becomes more and more common. And I suspect, well, I firmly believe actually, that a giant piece of this has to do with the coarsening of our culture. In other words, you know, we have a lot less in our society. We have a lot less respect for other people. We have a lot less respect for the value of human life, for the value of human liberty, for anyone else's feelings. You know, we are very quick, and I'm saying we as a society, not we as us collection of individuals listening and watching this. We have a lot more regard for our own worth and our own wants, needs, and desires than we do for anyone else. You know, if someone decides that they want to express an opinion and we don't like it, well, I'm offended. And that's just the most horrible thing that can be said, is I'm offended. Someone offended me. You know, we care more about what we think and what we want and what we believe than anyone else's rights to think, want, and believe things. We want what we want when we want it, and we don't give a damn who we trample on to get it. And that comes to it. I think these shootings, I think all the violence that we have in our society, you know, again, it's not a gun problem. It is a heart problem. It's a person problem. And I can't tell you why this is happening. Again, wiser heads than mine have tried to figure this out and can't. If I could figure it out, I'd have enough money to retire. I don't know why it's happening, and I don't know what the solution is, but I do know, having watched this occur over the last 17 years, that it's a complex issue, and there are no simple solutions to it. You know, do we need to, you know, is it the lack of the father in a lot of these homes? Yeah, probably. Is it a lack of discipline in schools? Yeah, probably. Is it a lack of accountability in the juvenile justice system? Yeah, probably. And, you know, I think there are a lot of factors involved in it. And to say that, you know, if we do this, then it will get better, I think is kind of a fallacy. It's wishful thinking at best. And I'm not trying to dog on you, Ro, but I think that there is no, if we do this, everything magically gets better. It's going to be a lot of things that have to be done.
Yeah, I get it. I don't think like the method of arming teachers. Do you honestly think that would still stop school shootings? Another thing that I see, metal detectors. Do you honestly think that would stop students. I mean, people are always going to find one way or another to hurt each other.
Oh, that's funny because
But just
recently, I'm sorry, the whole metal detector thing. You're saying people will find a way. You're absolutely right, because we recently had a young man come in to my building because he was going to stab somebody in school because he called his mom a name. This kid was like 12, and he carved a wooden knife specifically so it can get through the metal detectors, and he carved it with serrations in it so it'll hurt the kid more when he stabbed him. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It people will find a way, but I think that if we allow school teachers to be armed, will it stop school shootings? No. Will it shorten their duration and will it lessen the casualties? Pretty good chance. Better chance than if nobody was armed. Do metal detectors stop everything? No, absolutely not. But they stop some things, and that's good.
And that's what I'm saying. Just some kind of deterrent. Sticking a poster on something and putting a line through whatever object that you want to is not going to solve the problem. You have to take extra steps in solving these problems, or at least curving them to the point where they don't get like Florida, they don't get like Texas, and start putting a deterrent. That's what they try and say about a 4473. It's a deterrent for criminals. They won't try to buy guns. Well, they'll find a different way to do it. But if you put measures and precautions in place, whether it be arming teachers, I guess a bucket of rocks, as that one guy said, or what they're trying to do now in Michigan is they're talking about giving teachers tasers, and people are like, well, what would tasers ever do with a guy with a gun? If you ever got zapped with a taser, you can see that it'll shut down mobility real quick.
It won't happen, Paul. Tasers are illegal here. They're not going to let teachers have them.
Well, I mean, just any kind of deterrent. So when people think about doing these violent acts, these egregious things, just to know that, look, there is going to be a swift and horrible penalty if you do this. You can try, but you're going to suffer a major consequence for your action, and it won't be held in the hands of a jury.
I'd rather that teacher have a fighting chance to save all the lives in that room, including their life, than no chance at all. Absolutely. That's a simple thing that can be done. And you could say, well, it's very complicated how we have to do this. Well, not really, but yeah, somebody could make it complicated. And when you talk about parenting, if you say this is a parenting issue, that's a simple thing. People need to go back to being parents. But now it's complicated because you've got so many split up families, and you've got family law that ruins everything, and you've got all the outside influences, and you've got no. So then that makes it complicated. So I can see how you're saying some of the stuff is simple, and Budget, I can see how you're saying it's really more complicated than that, because it's a little bit of both, and it kind of sucks. And as parents, the best we can do is the best we can do. We're going to make mistakes like our parents did, like all parents will, but we're going to try to keep our kids safe. We're going to try to raise them what we think is best, and we're going to try to vote for the politicians that are going to support the measures that we feel will help keep our kids safe while they're attending school. So we're all trying, but does it amount to anything? Only time's going to tell.
Yeah. Now, don't think that because I just want to make sure I'm clear here. Don't think that because I believe this is an extremely complicated issue that we shouldn't try some simple solutions. I just think that we shouldn't have the expectation that a simple solution will solve everything. We should make our schools harder targets. We should have students use clear backpacks. We should have metal detectors. We should allow teachers that wish to do so and are able to do so have firearms or even pepper spray, tasers, anything, something. I even hate to say it, but maybe the bag of rock, the bucket of rocks and a mini bat. I'm sure this teacher, Jason Seaman here in Indiana today, would have loved to have had a bucket of rocks or a mini bat. we should try these simple solutions, and maybe if we do enough of these simple solutions, it'll add up to solve the complex problem. I don't know.
I'm not for.
I'd make a lot of money.
I'm only for giving the teachers the option to legally conceal carry in school. All the rest of the stuff is just a bunch of metal detectors. They'll come through the back door. A bucket of rocks in the classroom, kids will start throwing them at each other. Tasers, yeah, that'll work, but it's not as effective as a firearm as far as how you have to employ it, that sort of thing. Also, I think a taser would probably get left somewhere where it would get access because they're not going to take it as seriously as the responsibility of concealed carrying a firearm. There's just the clear backpacks. No, I don't agree with that because there are ways that you can put stuff in there and say, well, the backpack's clear, but the thing inside of it is covered. Plus, it's some sort of half-assed stopgap measure that really all it does is, I mean, the kids were complaining that it violates their civil rights. It kind of does. I mean, unless it was a fashion trend, you could get them to want to wear them, but it's putting a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound. I mean, I'm not saying that we should do only teachers having the option to be armed, but I think that's going to be the most effective deterrent / I don't want to call it remedy, but it like it was said earlier, it's going to reduce the time and it's going to save lives. It's going to, when it does happen, but the very first thing it's going to be is a deterrent. The rest of that stuff is lipstick on a pig. It just ain't going to do nothing. And then also realize this too. If somebody wants to burn the building down or blow up a truckload of explosives in the parking lot, a gun ain't going to do nothing about that. But that's another problem for another time.
Yep. Well, all right. We've kind of beat this horse in the hamburger, so we're going to go ahead and move on a little bit. We're going to revisit something that happened a while ago back at the Sandy Hook shooting. After that, shortly after that, the President Obama's advisors were emailing back and forth. This is a piece from who's this from the Daily Wire. Exposed: Obama's advisors' emails in immediate Sandy Hook aftermath reveal anti-gun agenda, tap people's emotions, quote unquote. According to emails obtained via Freedom of Information Act request, first reported by the Baltimore Post, advisors to then President Barack Obama immediately strategized how to exploit the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary School to push their gun control agenda. Quote, tap people's emotions, unquote, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel advised then Education Secretary Arne Duncan on December 16, 2012, just 2 days after the massacre that left 26 dead. The victims' bodies were yet laid to rest. The two discussed how they could exploit the tragedy to bring about their anti-gun agenda. What are your thoughts? Duncan asked Emanuel on an email with the subject line, Connecticut shooting. Quote, go for a vote this week ASAP before it fades, replied Emanuel. Tap people's emotion. Make it simple assault weapons. Yup, thanks, replied the education secretary. When I did Brady Bill and assault weapons for Clinton, we always made it simple. Criminals or war weapons, wrote back Emanuel. Duncan then inquired about the so-called gun show loophole and other talking points to push on the public. Gun show loophole? Database? Cop killer bullets? Too complicated? He wrote. Cop killer maybe, answered Emanuel. The other, no. Got it, Duncan agreed. Emanuel served as the Obama White House Chief of Staff from 2008 to January 2009. Fittingly, the ruthless Politico famously said, you never want a serious crisis to go to waste, and what I mean by that is, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before. The murder of 20 children included, apparently. Manhattan Institute senior fellow Max Eden called the immediate politicization of a tragedy shameful. Max Eden. Emails Rahm Emanuel after the Newtown asking for thoughts. Rahm says tap people's emotions, make it simple assault weapons. Duncan says, yep, thanks. And that's what he did. And that's what he's still doing. Shameful. And that's it. Shameful. You know, I talked about this, I believe it was last week, about how it's unfortunate that we can't even take the time to mourn anything. We can't take the time to feel bad for the families involved. We can't take the time to express condolences. We can't take the time to be human freaking beings, because we have people like this who, before the bodies are even laid to rest, who before the bodies are even picked up, who before the blood's even mopped off the damn floor, are going to do everything they can to exploit the blood of kids. And they talk about us being heartless, cold, and disgusting, when that's the mask that they wear. I hate those sons of bitches. I know I try to keep this a PG show, but man, I hate them.
Yeah, man, that's pretty scumbaggery. And well, you just see how Rahm Emanuel's using that, especially in Chicago. I mean, look at Chicago. He's implementing those same procedures in Chicago. So, and look at that place. That place is just, oh my God, it's just a total, complete, and utter mess. So he hasn't changed one bit.
No, they never will. Never will.
The emotional budget guns and gears, folks.
Yeah, I get. Trust me, I'm reining myself in pretty good here. Without any doubt whatsoever, I'm reining myself in. Here's a piece from. I want to say this is probably in Breitbart. Is where I got this from. NRA raises more than double three biggest gun control groups combined. 23rd May 2018. April donations to the NRA's Political Victory Fund were over 2.5 times higher than donations to the three biggest gun control PACs combined. Federal Election Commission filings show the NRA's PAC received $1,852,323.28. Can't forget the 28 cents in donations. While that is roughly $600,000 less than the $2.4 million they raised in March, it is still many times higher than the amount given to the nation's largest gun control PACs. For example, the Washington Beacon reports that the Giffords PAC raised $653,510.53 in April. Everytown for Gun Safety PAC raised $16,552.33, and the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence Voter Education Fund raised $4,015. That makes the combined total of $674,077.88. I'm sorry, 86 cents for the gun control PACs, which is $1,178,000. $245.42 less than the NRA's PAC received. This surge in NRA giving began in late February as celebrities, school gun control activists, and the establishment media blamed the NRA for the Parkland school shooting. Breitbart News reported that donations to the NRA PAC tripled during the last 2 weeks of February. Then in March, donations to the NRA PAC broke a 15-year record. Record levels of background checks for gun purchases were concurrent with such giving. March 2018 set the all-time record for the most background checks for gun purchases of any March in history, and April 2018 set the all-time record for the most background checks for gun purchases of any April in history. Love them, hate them, got no use for them, don't care one way or the other. The NRA seems to be getting a lot of cash off of this, and one has to wonder, the cynical side of me does anyway. Well, I don't wonder. The cynical side of me fully believes that they knew this was what was going to happen when they issued their asinine statement following the Las Vegas tragedy with regard to bump stocks, that it would gin up some, kind of give a pass to the rhinos to go after bump stocks, and which would kind of stir the public up about it, and thus generate more fundraising for them. I kind of think they knew this is what was going to happen. I'm of mixed feelings. I think that the NRA is the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to the gun rights, and their education wing is top notch. and their education and training wing is top notch, but their political wing, I'm pretty skeptical about their motives. Pretty skeptical.
I don't like the NRA one bit.
Yeah. Patriot in the Dark says, did you see what happened in Mass where the NRA A+ reps voted for red flag laws? Philo says these red flag laws are going to be a disaster. Yeah, I agree. I think they're absolutely disgusting. They circumvent due process and should all be thrown out on account of it. As a matter of fact, anyone that voted for those should be voted out by their constituents. Good luck with that, though, because I think the majority of people just don't care about these things like we do. They just don't.
That was also proposed by Chris Cox and the NRA.
Yep.
So there you go. That's why I don't like the NRA.
Yeah. Let's see. They set a horrible precedent. They're going to have to change all sorts of laws surrounding all rights to make them work. Well, hopefully, and even though they seem reluctant to take any 2A related cases, hopefully SCOTUS at some point will weigh in on these things. That's why I think that as opposed to giving money to the NRA, or if you feel that you have to keep a membership in the NRA in order to maintain membership in your local range or gun club, or you have a instructor certification that you need to keep going, or anything like that, in addition to giving them your dues, it might be a good idea to join something like the Second Amendment Foundation. As some of you may know, I recently became a life member of the SAF, but I think it's only like $150 to be a life member. But if you don't have that kind of scratch at one spot that you can afford to throw at it, $15 a year lets you become a member of the Second Amendment Foundation too. And they support us in ways that the NRA never dreamed of. 80% of existing pro-gun case law is a direct result of the Second Amendment Foundation's work, fighting these horrific gun laws that come up wherever they come up. So I highly recommend joining the Second Amendment Foundation. Even if you can only send them $5, send them something, because folks, they're out there doing the work for us on our behalf. And no, they're not. No, they have not paid me a dime, unfortunately. If they want to pay me a dime to recruit for them, hey, great. But I'd probably just donate it back to them anyway.
That's what I tell first-time gun owners. I tell them to, before you go to the NRA, even the GOA, go look at these smaller groups and go look at your state and local level groups and support them, especially because of the NRA. These other groups will do way more than what the NRA, what you said, would even dream about doing, and they put forth the effort to combat some of the anti-gun legislation. So I encourage new gun owners that I run into, or that want to join the community, to go look at those state, local levels, and then the smaller groups like the Second Amendment Foundation.
Patriot in the Dark said the less popular Budget channel had a total listing of all Massachusetts reps that voted for the red flag. Go ahead and throw the name out there. I don't care. You can go ahead and plug them. If it's a resource that people can go, particularly any of you who happen to be in Mass, can go to and look up and see which one of your Congress critters and elected representatives betrayed you. Not a problem. Go ahead and throw that name out there. I'm totally okay with it.
That's what they do, Patriot. They're always going to give funding to any state that's going to pass anti-gun legislation. That's how they get these states to pass it. Money talks and BS walks. And unfortunately, that's just, that happens in everyday life.
Unfortunately, the money propagates the BS. That's why we have to deal with so much of it. Oh, midnight. Ow! 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 Midnight says, I thought this was the least popular budget channel. Damn, buddy.
Ouch.
Shit. Screw you, pal. You go to hell. You go to hell and you die.
So now when he does his chats, we're going to just turn it into a gun chat. We're going
Yeah,
to ruin
that's
his
right.
food chat with gun
That
chats.
was gun chat. You watch. Watch it happen, pal. Watch. All right. Well, let's go ahead and end this on a high note. Hopefully I can recover from that thrust to the heart there via the spine. Robbers try to stop woman's car. She pulls into gun-owning son's driveway. 24th May, 2018. A mother being pursued by robbery suspects in Nashville drove to her son's home, and he came out and opened fire, causing the suspects to flee. WSMV reports the suspects were driving behind the female victim early Wednesday morning. They bumped her car as she was turning into the alley near her son's townhome, but she refused to stop, continuing instead to parking places near her son. She then began blowing her horn, and her son came out with a gun. The suspects allegedly shot at the son, who then returned fire, and the suspects fled. Police believe the suspects may be tied to other robberies that have included bumping into victims' cars to get them to stop. Hours before the mother fled to her gun-owning son for protection, another driver was bumped from behind at the intersection of Sawyer Brown Road and Todd Place Drive. Pleis. I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation. Anyway, Todd Place Drive. He got out of his vehicle to inspect damage, only to see an armed suspect exit the other vehicle and urge his fellow suspects to steal the car. The would-be victim jumped back in his car and drove off at a high rate of speed, eventually being stopped by the police and relaying news of the attempted carjacking. So there you go, folks. Another person who was able to be save their life, liberty, and property because of the defensive use of a firearm. The only thing I would say is she needs to get her concealed handgun license and be able to protect herself. You won't always be able to rely on being able to get to a friendly ally's house to be able to have them do it for you. The only person that you can rely on is yourself. Budget, Midnight Rain says, Budget, I have a story that happened to me personally last week, very much like that. Oh, wow, man. If you haven't told that on the YouTubes yet, maybe you should.
No, he told it, and he brought up a lot of really good points, and included resources from law enforcement, and it's along the same lines. It's the old bait and switch. Try to get you to stop to inspect your damage, and then they're going to carjack you. Here's the thing, though. Concealed carry, that's better than nothing. But let's say you stopped, and 5 guys came out of nowhere to come stop you all by yourself. Your concealed carry may not be enough. Unfortunately, not in every state can you drive around with a loaded rifle in your car. But it'd be, nice if you could, when you got out of your car to inspect it, just reach over and pull the AK out of the back seat and sling that over your shoulder. Maybe have it a little ready while you go inspect the damage. Those 5 guys would be looking at each other going, you go, oh, no, you go, no, you go. None of them would want to come out and face you.
Well, I think the even better option would be to not stop until you're in a very public, very crowded place. And
that's kind of what Midnight was talking about. Somebody had thrown something at his vehicle to get him to stop, and he got out of the neighborhood before he did, but it could have gone bad. But the thing is, though, what about the time where you think you hit a person, or you're trying to be a law-abiding citizen and not do a hit and run on a vehicle or something like that? With so many of these homes in these neighborhoods having these cameras on the porch and whatnot, and police have gone back and used the footage, et cetera, et cetera. So in trying to do the right thing, you end up getting carjacked. That's why I'm saying, if they just said, yeah, you can keep an AK in your car and just, get out with it if you feel the need.
All righty. Well, we're going to go ahead and shut this down, go through the panel of 2 here in a moment. I just want to say again, thanks for everybody that showed up over here on the YouTube's side. Let's see, who are all the participants over here? Right now, we got Gizzard Gary, Midnight Range, Patriot in the Dark, Road Call, and Vanessa Kitty. Anyone whose name I missed, who stopped by and left, hey, thanks. Philo, thank you to you. Thermo Redneck with a paycheck, thank you to you. I'm glad you guys stopped by to say hello. Over on the Gun Channel side, General Relativity, Dead Horse, Smeggy, Mr. White, and Giz. Thank you guys. I'm glad you stopped by and wanted to listen to anything that we had to say tonight. I'm always amazed that even 12 people at any one time will stop and listen to anything that I have to say. So thanks. Roll call, anything you want to add to this? Anything you want to leave us with? Any parting shots, plugs, anything?
Thanks for having me. And guys, go check out my channel and go check out everybody else's stuff. And thank you all that come to these chats and support your favorite gun channel creators.
Squib, anything you'd like to add, sir?
Tomorrow morning, Travis P11 will not be having a show, but Sunday at 22:30 hours, at 10:30 p.m. for civilians, Midnight Range PM will be doing the closing show. So I guess if you can't listen to Travis, you can always settle for the other Travis.
And Midnight Range, no, it isn't that Mike doesn't watch your show. It's just that Mike doesn't always watch the show. Mike sometimes has this thing called a life that he has to attend to. I apologize. I'm not always available and always on YouTube's. I will go back and watch the show. And I will go back and find it and watch it and pay much attention to it. But man, I don't know. After what you said to me earlier,
Hey, I thought I just took care of that. You hear my Travis versus Travis remark. I know. No, I will say this though. If you go back and listen to Sunday night show, at the end there, some of the cereal talk was actually funny. I don't know how you can turn cereal into something that will make you laugh, but I was laughing a lot. So good show.
All right. Those of you who won things last week on my giveaway show, you haven't gotten it yet. That's because I haven't sent it yet. It will come out by Tuesday at the latest. I now have a few days off, and I'm going to have the time to get everything packaged up and labeled and take it to the post office either tomorrow or probably Tuesday. So it will be out here shortly. Jelsma, if you are listening in the replay, I will be starting on making that sheath for your knife, and I will get that out to you ASAP. Just want to leave you guys with, again, remember the reason for the holiday that we have this weekend, and don't forget to pay your respects for those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we can be free to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Once again, as always, don't be shy in letting your Congress critters and elected representatives know what you think. Send email, snail mail, telephone, telegraph, heliograph, semaphore, anything that you have to do, smoke signals or carrier pigeon. Never, ever, ever give up the fight. Talk to you guys later.